The throne room of the empire was made of living crystal. The walls glowed with soft blue light. Emperor sat on his throne, his silver skin shining under the light. His eyes were cold like frozen stars. He had ruled his people for 300 years, and he had never shown fear to anyone. But today, fear touched his heart. The hologram in front of him showed a map of the galaxy. Red marks covered the eastern border of his empire. Each red mark was a warship. The Dominion was coming. They were a race of conquerors. They destroyed everything they touched, and now they wanted space. "How long do we have?" Emperor asked. His chief advisor, an old with tired eyes, shook his head. 6 months, maybe less. Our fleet cannot stop them alone, Your Majesty." The emperor closed his eyes. His empire had enjoyed peace for so long. His soldiers were brave, but they were not warriors, not like the humans. The humans. They were the youngest species in the Galactic Compact. They had only been in space for 200 years, but in that short time they had earned a reputation that made other races whisper in fear. Humans were small. Humans were soft. Humans lived short lives, but humans fought like nothing else in the galaxy. They had attacked human colonies once. They never did it again. "Bring me the human ambassador," Emperor commanded. The doors of the throne room opened. A human female walked in. Her name was. She was small, with black hair and dark eyes. She wore a simple white uniform. She bowed respectfully to the emperor. "Your Majesty," she said, "I received your message. Humanity is willing to help the empire." "At what cost?" asked. Smiled, it was a careful smile. "We want a permanent alliance, not just for this war, forever. We want trade agreements. We want shared technology, and we want," she paused, "we want a marriage." The court gasped. Nobles looked at each other with shock. "A marriage," repeated slowly. "Between a human champion and a member of your royal family," continued. "This will show the galaxy that our alliance is real. It will show that attacking you means attacking us." Understood. Politics was politics, no matter the species. A marriage would bind their peoples together. It would make the alliance unbreakable. "Which member of my family?" he asked. "Your youngest daughter, Princess Seraphine." More gasps from the court. Seraphine was beloved by the people. She was gentle and kind. She spent her days in the royal gardens painting and reading poetry. She was not made for war or politics. "And who is this human champion?" asked. His eyes became serious. He is the hero of Nexus 7. The name fell like a stone into water. Ripples of whispers spread through the court. Everyone knew about Nexus 7. It was a small human colony that they had attacked 3 years ago. The defense force was destroyed in the first hour. Only one soldier survived. He had fought alone for 18 hours. He held the main colony building by himself. He killed over 200 warriors. When human reinforcements finally arrived, they found him still standing in a mountain of enemy bodies. He had wounds that should have killed him 10 times over, but he was still fighting. They called him the demon who would not die. Emperor nodded slowly. "Very well, I accept. Bring Princess Seraphine." The servants hurried to find the princess. Minutes later, Seraphine entered the throne room. She was beautiful, with pale silver skin and long white hair. Her eyes were like purple jewels. She wore a simple dress of flowing silk. She looked at her father with confusion. "You called for me, father." Stood up from his throne. "Seraphine, my daughter, I have wonderful news. You are to be married." Seraphine blinked. "Married to whom?" "To a human, a great warrior named. He is the hero of Nexus 7. This marriage will save our empire from the..." The color drained from Seraphine's face. Her hands began to shake. She had heard the stories. Everyone had heard the stories. The human who walked through fire. The human who killed without stopping. The human who smiled while covered in enemy blood. She fell to her knees. "Not him, father," she cried. Her voice echoed through the crystal hall. "I'm terrified of that human warrior." The court fell silent. No one moved, no one breathed. Emperor looked down at his daughter. His face showed no emotion. "Your fear does not matter, Seraphine. The Empire needs this alliance. You will marry the human. This is my command." Tears rolled down Seraphine's cheeks. "Please, Father, anyone else, any other human, but not him, not the demon of Nexus 7. "Enough," said coldly. "The decision is made. You will meet him in 1 week. The wedding will be in 2 months. This discussion is over." He turned and walked away. The court slowly emptied. Soon, only Seraphine remained on the cold crystal floor, crying silently. Later that night, Lady found the princess in her chambers. Was Seraphine's handmaiden and closest friend. She held the princess as she wept. "I have seen the recordings," Seraphine whispered. "I have seen what he did at Nexus 7. He is not a man. He is a monster wearing human skin, and my father wants me to marry him." Stroked her hair gently. "Perhaps the stories are exaggerated, my lady. Perhaps he is not so terrible in person." Seraphine shook her head. "I saw him kill, I saw his eyes. There was nothing human in them, only death." She looked out her window at the stars. "In 1 week, the monster will arrive, and I will have to smile and pretend I am not terrified. I will have to marry the most dangerous creature in the galaxy." A single tear fell from her eye. "May the ancestors protect me," she whispered, "because nothing else can." The royal spaceport was crowded with thousands of nobles. They had come from across the Empire to see the human warrior arrive. Soldiers stood in perfect lines. Musicians held their instruments ready. Everything was prepared for a grand welcome. But the mood was not celebration, it was fear. Princess Seraphine stood on a high balcony, watching the sky. Lady stood beside her. The princess had not slept well for 7 days. Dark circles marked her beautiful eyes. Her hands gripped the balcony railing so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "The ship approaches, my lady," said softly. Seraphine saw it. A small human vessel descended through the clouds. It was not a warship. It was simple and plain, almost humble. She had expected something terrifying, covered in weapons and battle scars. The ship landed gently on the platform. Steam rose from its engines. The crowd held its breath. The door of the ship began to open. Seraphine felt her heart pounding. She wanted to run, she wanted to hide, but she was a princess. She had to watch. A figure stepped out of the ship. He was tall for a human, but only average height for a. He wore a simple black formal uniform with no medals or decorations. His hair was dark and cut short. His face had old scars, thin white lines crossing his cheek and jaw, but his expression was calm, almost peaceful. This was the demon of Nexus 7, the most feared warrior in the galaxy. He did not look like a demon. Walked down the ramp slowly. He stopped before Emperor and bowed deeply. It was a perfect bow, respectful and proper. "Your Majesty," he said. His voice was quiet and steady. "Thank you for welcoming me to your world. I am honored by your hospitality." The Emperor nodded. "You are welcome here, warrior. Our alliance will bring peace to both our peoples." Straightened. "I hope so, Your Majesty. I have seen enough war. Peace would be a blessing." Whispers spread through the crowd. This was not what they expected. Where was the monster? Where was the demon who bathed in blood? This man spoke like a scholar, not a killer. Seraphine watched from her balcony. Confusion filled her mind. She had studied every recording of Nexus 7. She had seen this man tear through enemy soldiers like they were made of paper. She had seen him take wounds that would kill any and keep fighting without stopping. But this man in the courtyard seemed gentle. His eyes were calm. His movements were slow and careful. He smiled politely at the nobles who greeted him. "I do not understand," Seraphine whispered. "Perhaps there are 2 sides to him," my lady suggested. That night there was a formal dinner. Seraphine was forced to sit near at the royal table. She barely touched her food. She could not stop looking at him from the corner of her eye. He ate quietly and carefully. He used the utensils correctly, even though they were different from human tools. He must have practiced. He spoke politely to the nobles who asked him questions. He never boasted about his victories. When someone mentioned Nexus 7, he changed the subject quickly. After dinner approached her, Seraphine felt her body freeze with fear. "Princess Seraphine," he said, bowing his head slightly, "I know this arrangement was not your choice. I want you to know that I will never force anything upon you. I would like to walk in the gardens if you would join me, but only if you are comfortable." His eyes were kind. She saw no anger, no cruelty, no hunger for violence, just quiet patience. Protocol demanded she accept. She nodded silently. They walked together through the bioluminescent gardens. Glowing flowers lit their path in soft blues and purples. Night insects sang gentle songs. It should have been beautiful, but Seraphine could not relax. She walked as far from him as possible. Stopped before a tall flower that glowed like a small sun. "What is this called?" he asked. Seraphine blinked. "You want to know about flowers?" "I know nothing about plants," he admitted. "On Earth, I keep a small garden. My grandmother taught me. She said that warriors who tend gardens remember what they are fighting for." "It is called a bloom," Seraphine said slowly. "It only opens at night. It drinks starlight instead of sunlight." Smiled. It was a small, genuine smile. "That is beautiful, a flower that eats starlight. I would like to learn more about your world, princess, if you would teach me." They walked for another hour. Seraphine told him about the gardens, the plants, the history of the palace. Listened carefully to every word. He asked simple questions. He never interrupted. He never tried to touch her or move closer. When they returned to the palace, he bowed again. "Thank you for your time, princess. I know you are afraid of me. I understand why. I will work to earn your trust, however long it takes." He walked away to his chambers. Seraphine stood alone, more confused than ever. Later came to her with news. "My lady, I spoke with the kitchen servants. The human asked about vegetarian meal options. He did not want to disturb anyone with human eating habits. He said he knows some find meat eating uncomfortable." "He asked about that," Seraphine said with surprise. "Yes, and I heard from the library keeper that he requested books of poetry. He is reading them in his chambers right now. His pronunciation is terrible, apparently, but he is trying very hard." Seraphine sat on her bed. The monster who slaughtered 200 warriors was now reading poetry and eating vegetables to make her people comfortable. "Who is this man?" she asked. "How can the same person do such terrible things and such gentle things?" Shook her head. "I do not know, my lady. Perhaps humans are more complicated than we believed." Seraphine looked out her window at the stars. She was still afraid. She could not forget what she had seen in those recordings. But now a small question grew in her heart. Was there more to than death? She did not know, but for the first time she wanted to find out. 3 weeks passed since arrived on Prime. Every day he did the same things. He woke before sunrise. He trained alone in the practice yards. Then he sat in the gardens until breakfast. Seraphine began watching him. She told herself it was only curiosity. She needed to understand her future husband. That was all. Every morning, she hid behind a crystal pillar and watched him train. His combat skills were terrifying. He moved faster than anything his size should move. His body flowed like water, then struck like lightning. He practiced with swords, with staffs, with his bare hands. Every movement was perfect, deadly. Seraphine understood why they feared him. When he fought, even in practice, his eyes changed. They became cold and empty, like a predator hunting prey. But then the training would end, would put away his weapons. He would sit on a stone bench in the garden, and small creatures would come to him. The palace gardens had many tiny animals, little flying things with colorful wings, small furry creatures that lived in the flower beds. They were shy and hid from most people. But they came too. He would sit perfectly still. The creatures would approach slowly. Soon they would climb onto his hands, his shoulders, his knees. He would feed them small seeds from his pocket. He would smile at them with a softness that seemed impossible for a warrior. One morning, Seraphine watched a tiny winged creature land on his finger, lifted it gently and whispered something. Then he laughed quietly as it flew away. This was the same man who held Nexus 7 alone, the same man who killed 200 enemies in one night. Seraphine could not understand. She went to find the human ambassador. "Tell me about him," Seraphine demanded. "Tell me the truth about." Looked at the princess with understanding eyes. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Why does he fight like a demon but act like a gentle child?" Sighed. "Because he is human, princess. We are both things at once. We can destroy and create, kill and nurture, hate and love. This is our nature." "Did he want this marriage?" Seraphine asked. Was quiet for a moment. "No, he was ordered to accept. He is a soldier. He follows orders, but he made one request." "What request?" "He asked for permission to court you properly. He did not want you to be forced. He wanted time to let you know him. He wanted to earn your affection, not demand it." Seraphine felt something strange in her chest. "He said that?" "Yes, has fought many battles. He has killed many enemies, but he has never stopped believing in kindness. His grandmother raised him that way. He told me once that the day he stops being gentle is the day he becomes a true monster." That night Seraphine could not sleep. She walked through the eastern wing of the palace, thinking about everything she had learned. She did not hear the shadows moving behind her. Suddenly hands grabbed her. She tried to scream, but a cloth covered her mouth. She was dragged into a dark room. When her eyes adjusted, she saw 7 figures surrounding her. Assassins. They were tall and covered in scales. Their eyes glowed yellow in the darkness. One of them held a knife to her throat. "The princess of," the leader hissed. "Your death will destroy the human alliance. Without humans, your empire will fall." Seraphine's heart pounded with terror. She was going to die. No one knew where she was. No one would save her. Then the door exploded inward. Stood in the doorway, he wore only sleeping clothes. No armor, no weapons. His eyes were cold and empty, just like during training, but worse, much worse. "Let her go," he said. His voice was calm and quiet. The leader laughed. "1 human against 7 warriors. You are brave but stupid." "You have 3 seconds, said. The leader moved his knife closer to Seraphine's throat. "Kill him." 3 rushed at. What happened next took less than 10 seconds. Moved like nothing Seraphine had ever seen. He was faster than the training sessions, faster than the recordings. His hands became weapons. His body became death. The first died before he could raise his blade, broke his neck with a single motion. The second fell with his throat crushed. The third screamed as took his own knife and buried it in his chest. The other 4 attacked together. It did not matter. Took a knife wound to his arm. He ignored it. He took another to his side. He ignored that too. He kept moving, kept killing. Blood sprayed across the walls. In less than a minute, all 7 lay dead on the floor. Stood in the center of the carnage. He was breathing hard. Blood covered his hands, his face, his clothes. Most of it was not his. His eyes were still cold, still empty. Then he looked at Seraphine, and his eyes changed. The coldness melted away. Concern filled his face. He rushed to her but stopped before touching her. "Are you hurt, princess?" he asked. His voice was rough with worry. Seraphine was shaking. She could not speak. She could only stare at him. This man had just killed 7 trained assassins with his bare hands. He had wounds that were dripping blood onto the floor, and his first thought was her safety. I'm not hurt, she whispered. Let out a long breath. His shoulders relaxed. He smiled weakly. Good, he said. That is good. Then his legs buckled. He fell to his knees. The wounds were worse than he had shown. Seraphine caught him before he hit the ground. Help, she screamed. Someone help. Guards rushed in. Servants followed. But Seraphine did not let go of. She held him as he bled as his eyes closed. She had seen both sides of him now. The monster and the man, the killer and the protector. And she realized, holding him in that bloody room, that she was no longer sure which one scared her more. Or if she was still scared at all. The medical wing of the palace was quiet. Soft blue lights glowed from the walls. Healing machines hummed gently. In the center of the room lay on a white bed, unconscious. The doctors were confused. Human bodies were strange to them. They did not heal the same way. Ambassador stood beside them, giving instructions. His wounds are serious, said, but he has survived worse, much worse. He will live. Princess Seraphine stood in the corner of the room. She had not left since the attack. Her dress was still stained with his blood. She refused to change. She refused to eat. She only watched. He saved my life, she whispered. Looked at her with knowing eyes. That is who he is, princess. Destroys to protect. He always has. 3 days passed before woke up. His eyes opened slowly. He looked around the unfamiliar room. Then he saw Seraphine sitting beside his bed. Princess, he said, his voice was weak, you are here. I have been here every day, she said. You saved my life, I owed you that much. Tried to sit up, pain crossed his face. Seraphine gently pushed him back down. Do not move, fool, she said. You have 7 holes in your body, rest. He laughed softly, it was a warm sound. 7 holes, I have had worse. I know, Seraphine said quietly. I read your military record. You should have died many times. Humans are stubborn, said. We do not die easily. Seraphine was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had burned in her mind for days. Why did you come? How did you know I was in danger? Looked at the ceiling. I could not sleep. I was walking through the palace. I heard something wrong, a sound that did not belong. I followed it. You followed a sound into a room with 7 assassins, with no weapons, no armor. You were in danger, he said simply. Nothing else mattered. Seraphine felt tears forming in her eyes. She did not understand this man. He was terrifying and gentle, brutal and kind. He made no sense. I brought you something, she said, changing the subject. She held up a book of poetry. His eyes lit up. You remembered. Your pronunciation is terrible, she said. I will teach you properly. Over the next 2 weeks, Seraphine visited every day. At first, she told herself it was duty. He had saved her life. She should help him recover. That was all. But slowly, the visits became longer. She would read to him. He would try to repeat the words. His accent was awful. She would correct him. He would try again. She would laugh at his mistakes. He would laugh with her. For the first time since the betrothal was announced, Seraphine laughed genuinely. One evening began telling stories about Earth. He spoke of vast blue oceans that stretched forever. He spoke of mountains covered in white snow. He spoke of forests so thick that sunlight could not reach the ground. It sounds beautiful, Seraphine said. It is, agreed. I miss it sometimes. Tell me more about your grandmother, she asked. Ambassador mentioned her. His eyes grew soft with memory. Her name was, she raised me after my parents died in the First War. I was only 5 years old. I am sorry, Seraphine said quietly. She saved me, continued. Not just my body, my soul. She taught me to plant seeds, to grow things, to create life, not just take it. He paused. She said that a warrior who forgets beauty becomes a monster, so she made me tend her garden every day, even when I wanted to train, even when I was angry. She sounds wise. She died 2 years before Nexus 7. Sometimes I think, he stopped. His eyes became distant. Think what? Seraphine asked gently. Sometimes I think she died so she would not see what I became at Nexus 7, what I had to become. Seraphine reached out and took his hand. It was the first time she had touched him willingly. His hand was rough and but warm. Tell me about Nexus 7, she said. Not the battle reports, the truth. Was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. It was supposed to be a simple defense mission. Protect the colony until reinforcements arrived. But they came too fast, too many. Our entire team was killed in the first hour. I was the only one left. He paused. His grip on her hand tightened slightly. For 18 hours I fought. I do not remember most of it. Only flashes, blood, screaming, pain. I was certain I would die. Every minute I was certain. But I kept fighting. Not because I am brave, because I was too scared to stop. Seraphine saw tears in his eyes. She had never imagined the demon of Nexus 7 could cry. When the reinforcements found me, I was still fighting. I did not recognize them. I almost attacked them. I could not stop. It took 3 soldiers to hold me down. He took a shaky breath. I still have nightmares every night. I hear the screaming. I see the faces of everyone I killed. You were protecting innocent people, Seraphine said softly. I know, but that does not make the memories easier. He looked at her with wet eyes. You fear me, princess. I understand. You have seen what I can do, but I fear myself too. Every human soldier does. We know what we are capable of. That is why we hold so tightly to gentleness. If we let go of it, we become true monsters. Seraphine moved closer. She did not let go of his hand. I think I understand now, she said. You are not a monster. You are a man who carries monsters inside him, and you fight every day to keep them locked away. Looked at her. In his eyes she saw relief, gratitude, and something else, something deeper. You are not afraid of me anymore, he asked. Seraphine thought about it. She remembered the garden creatures that came to him without fear. She remembered his terrible pronunciation of words. She remembered his blood on her dress and his first question being about her safety. No, she said finally, I am not afraid anymore. She leaned forward and rested her head against his shoulder. He wrapped his arm around her gently, carefully, like she was something precious. Outside the window, the twin moons rose over Prime. For the first time since her father's decree, Seraphine felt at peace. The grand cathedral of Prime was filled with light. Thousands of crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, each one glowing with soft colors. Nobles from across the empire filled the seats. Ambassadors from a dozen alien species watched from special platforms. This was the wedding of the century. Princess Seraphine stood before a mirror in her dressing room. Her wedding dress was made of flowing white silk and tiny crystals that sparkled like stars. Lady adjusted her hair, adding small flowers that glowed gently. You look beautiful, my lady, said. Seraphine smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. I feel beautiful, I feel happy. Laugh softly. 2 months ago you were crying on this same floor. You were terrified of your future husband. Now look at you. I was a fool, Seraphine said. I judged him by stories instead of knowing him as a person. You were not a fool, you were scared. There is a difference. The doors opened. Emperor entered. He looked at his daughter with surprise. He had expected tears. He had expected fear. Instead, he saw joy. It is time, he said. Seraphine nodded. She took her father's arm. Together, they walked toward the cathedral. The doors opened and music filled the air. Everyone stood. Thousands of eyes watched as the princess walked down the aisle. But Seraphine saw only one person. Stood at the altar. He wore a formal human military uniform, but he had added ceremonial elements. A silver sash crossed his chest. Small crystals decorated his collar. He had learned their traditions. He had honored them. When he saw Seraphine, his eyes filled with wonder. He looked at her like she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. In that moment, she knew that everything was right. She reached the altar. Emperor placed her hand in his hand. The emperor looked at the human warrior with new respect. "Take care of my daughter," said quietly. "She is precious to me." "I will protect her with my life," replied. "I swear it." The ceremony began. It was long and formal, mixing human and traditions. There were spoken vows and symbolic gestures. Rings were exchanged. Flowers were placed in their hair. When the priest asked for their final vows, spoke first. "Seraphine," he said, his voice steady and clear, "I came to this world expecting only duty. I expected a political arrangement, nothing more. Instead, I found you. You saw the worst parts of me, the monster I can become. And you did not run. You stayed. You taught me that I am more than a weapon, more than a killer. With you, I remember who I want to be." Tears rolled down Seraphine's cheeks, happy tears. She replied, "I was terrified of you. I saw only the demon of Nexus 7. I did not see the man who feeds garden creatures, the man who reads poetry, the man who asked for vegetables so he would not disturb my people. You showed me that fear is easy. Understanding is harder, but understanding is worth it." The priest smiled. "By the power given to me by the gods and the laws of earth, I declare you married. You may kiss." Cupped Seraphine's face gently as if she were made of crystal. He kissed her softly. The crowd erupted in cheers. Later, at the celebration dinner, a messenger burst into the hall. He carried urgent news from the border. "The Dominion is retreating," he announced. "Their entire fleet is pulling back from space." The hall exploded with cheering. The marriage had worked. The alliance was real. They were too afraid to fight both humans and together. Emperor raised his glass. "To the alliance, to peace, to my daughter and her husband." Everyone drank. Later that evening, Prince approached on the balcony. Was Seraphine's older brother. He was tall and serious with cold eyes. "Human," he said. Turned to face him, Prince. "I was prepared to hate you," admitted. "I was prepared to find a way to end this marriage after the threat was gone. My sister deserved better than a political arrangement." Nodded, "I understand. But I have watched you these past weeks. I have seen how you look at her, how she looks at you." Paused. "You love her truly." "I do," said simply. Stepped closer. "Hurt her, human, break her heart, make her cry, and I will find a way to kill you. I do not care how dangerous you are, I will find a way." Did not flinch. He met's eyes with complete seriousness. "If I ever hurt her," he said, "I will let you." Stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly he extended his hand, shook it firmly. "Welcome to the family," said. Then he walked away. Seraphine found on the balcony an hour later. The celebration continued inside, but they wanted a moment alone. They stood together, looking out at the crystal city glowing under the twin moons. "I was so afraid of you," Seraphine said softly. "I know. I thought you were a monster." "Sometimes I am." She turned to look at him. "No, you are a man who carries darkness inside him, but you also carry light. The darkness protects, the light heals, you need both." Smiled. It was a sad smile, but also grateful. "You see me clearly, Seraphine. No one has ever seen me so clearly." She took his hand. "I am not afraid anymore." "Good," he said, "because I am terrified of you." She laughed. "Of me, the gentle princess who tends gardens and reads poetry." "Completely terrified," he said. His voice was warm and serious at the same time. "You are the only thing in this galaxy that could truly destroy me, Seraphine. You have my heart. You have my soul. You could break me with a word." She reached up and touched his cheek. "Then we are equal, because you have mine too." He leaned down and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, full of promise and hope. Behind them, the celebration continued. The alliance was secure. They had retreated. Peace had come to space. But for Seraphine and the politics no longer mattered. What had started as a forced arrangement had become something real, something beautiful. The princess, who feared the monster, had found the man inside. The warrior who knew only war had found peace in her arms. They stood together on the balcony as the twin moons rose higher. The future was uncertain. There would be more battles, more challenges, more darkness ahead. But they would face it together. And that was enough. The stars shone down on Prime, bright and eternal, and somewhere in the galaxy, the whispered fearful warnings to their children. Never anger the humans, they said, and never ever threaten what they love. Because a human protecting something precious was more dangerous than any army. And had found something precious indeed.